Warrior. Historical fiction story. Chapter 1. The master of the house grew sicker. When he coughed, it felt as if his lungs would tear apart. When his phlegm turned to blood, his wife realized the severity of the situation even more clearly. Their 9-year-old son ran around his father, wiping his lips and beard with a rag when the blood splattered from his mouth. The sun burned. The desert wind carried scorching sand through the city at least once a day. The woman knelt in the middle of the courtyard, raised her hands and prayed to her God. "O sun, O light of the universe, O life-giving deity, you are the one who scorches the desert and makes the valley flourish. Evil gods have attacked my poor husband. He is coughing up blood. Command your servants to heal him." But the sun, darkened and indifferent, did not answer her prayers. Instead of granting her wish or even acknowledging her, its heat only intensified. A fiery flood rained down upon the woman's body, yet she was more terrified of her 9-year-old son's fate than her husband's illness. At that moment, she forgot about her husband and began wailing about her son. "O son, father of Pharaoh, if my husband dies, how will I feed my child? Who will take me as a wife? Will I become a servant? Will my son become a slave?" She wept bitterly. The son, however, was in no hurry to show mercy. The boy looked at his mother and realized that the sun would consume her alive. "Mother, come inside. Don't sit under the sun. Look after father." The woman stopped praying and turned her lifeless eyes to her son. The boy was thin. His golden hair fell over his shoulders, his simple tunic reached his knees, and his wooden sandals had cracked at the heels. Yet his face was clean. "Mother, the sun is not listening to you. You've been praying for days. Look, you've turned dark from the heat. Father has stopped moving." The woman rushed to her husband's side. He lay still, as if he had stopped breathing. His forehead was covered in beads of sweat, and his beard was stained with the blood that had flowed from his mouth. She dipped a cloth into a jug of water and pressed it to his forehead. She performed this act in silence, as if she had no strength left to speak, or as if she had lost faith in words. The boy, his large blue eyes darting between his father and mother, asked, "Mother, who will save father? The sun is a god, but it doesn't care about us. Maybe we should pray to a better god." The woman gazed at her son sorrowfully. She felt that such words were childish, but at the same time, she knew they were natural, coming from a child who had only ever known suffering. The forces they had sought for salvation had always left them in despair. The boy, in his innocence, had already come to understand that neither the sun, nor the moon, nor the sky, nor the storm, nor any idol could help them. "My dear child, who else can we turn to for help? Who will come to our aid?" The boy fell silent. Suddenly, the neighing of a horse and the roar of a man were heard from outside. The woman jumped up in fear and rushed to the veranda. The boy followed. The bushes that served as a makeshift door lay trampled on the ground. A section of the waist-high wall had collapsed. 2 of Sakif Gauba's guards sat on horseback in the yard. Their expressions were grim. "Ashia, where is your husband?" Ashia turned pale as a sheet and bowed her head. "My lord, my husband is ill." "Ill? Why isn't he healed yet? Why?" "His illness is severe, my lord. He is coughing up blood." "Coughing up blood?" The senior guard cursed. "It seems he won't survive. Bring him out." Ashia sobbed. "My lord, he cannot get up." "He cannot get up? Then drag him out." The younger guard leapt off his horse and stepped into the hut. Ashia ran after him. "For the sake of the great Amun, for the honor of Ra, have mercy. My husband will die." The senior guard's anger flared. "Do not defile the sacred names of Amun and Ra with your filthy tongue. Your ancestors followed Moses and Aaron and rejected them. You worship the God of Moses and Aaron?" Ashia collapsed to the ground, wailing, "My Lord, we have repented. We have repented. We have returned to Amun and Ra. Only after we conquered your lands in battle? You are lying." The young guard dragged the sick man by the collar out of the hut. The man was too weak to cough, and dark blood oozed from his mouth. The guard threw him into the dust, covering him in dirt. Ashia embraced her husband's head, wailing in agony, "My lord, our King Jolut forgave us." He said, "You are not prisoners, you are not slaves. Why do you torment us so cruelly?" The senior guard sneered with disgust. "Our King Jolut is merciful, but we do not accept it. Be grateful that we have allowed creatures like you to live. Where is Moses? Where is Aaron? You used to follow the ways of the children of Judah." Ashia could say no more. She simply clutched her husband's head and wept. The boy stood frozen. The senior guard rode his horse closer to the couple. "Ashia, run!" "Why, my lord? Are you questioning me?" The guard snarled and barked an order to his companion. "Take the boy." The younger guard moved toward the child. Ashia screamed, releasing her husband, and ran toward her son. The senior guard prodded the sick man with the tip of his spear while still seated on his horse. The dying man let out a faint groan. The guard raised his spear high and thrust it deep into the man's chest. The spear pierced through his heart and embedded itself into the ground. With a single pull, the murderer yanked it out. A fountain of black blood gushed from the wound, then flowed in a slow stream, soaking the earth and forming a dark puddle. The man shuddered twice, then lay still. Ashia clung to her son, frozen in shock. The boy gasped, "Mother, mother, father," and fainted. "He has been sick for a week. A useless dog like him is of no use to us. Widow, bury your husband quickly, and by dawn be at your assigned work with your son. If not, both of you will die." Ashia barely understood his words. The brutal voice barely reached her ears. All she could think of was protecting her son from the spear. Half an hour later, Ashia regained consciousness. Her son was sitting beside his father's lifeless body. The neighbors had seen everything, but no one dared step into the cursed courtyard. Ashia hesitated for a moment. Suddenly, a surge of courage welled up within her. She looked at the sun, now cooling as it set, then at her husband's blood-soaked corpse, and at her son, who gently touched the dead man's face. Strength came from somewhere deep within her, and she stood up. "Roqib, my son, help me." Roqib looked at his mother. Sensing the determination in her voice, he obeyed without question. Together, they lifted the broken door and placed it beside the corpse. They rolled the body onto the door. Ashia stripped her husband's clothes, covered his private parts with 4 layers of cloth, and saw that his left chest was deeply torn, exposing the inside. Bringing a large jug, mother and son poured water over the body with a wooden ladle, washing away the dust and blood. Then Ashia gently cleansed her husband's face while Roqib poured water. Once the body was purified, they began digging in the middle of the courtyard. The sun had set. The moon had risen. Ashia worked hastily, while Roqib, exhausted, struggled to stay awake. They had not eaten since morning. Yet hunger was the last thing on their minds. When Rokib woke up, he saw his mother dragging his father's body toward the grave. It was the middle of the night. Crickets chirped, and the full moon glowed red in the sky. Rokib rushed to help. His mother had dug a deep grave, and it was impossible to lower the body gently. Together, they rolled it into the pit. The corpse landed face down. Ashia climbed into the grave, turned her husband's face upward, and spoke to him. "Oh, my poor husband, we abandoned Moses' path just to survive. But we have been humiliated. Moses saved our ancestors from Pharaoh. He taught us to defend ourselves. He taught us that the universe has only one God. But we turned away, thinking we could live. And we did, but we were disgraced. They slaughtered you like a dog. Oh, my wretched husband. Today, I finally understand that Moses' words were true." Ashia climbed out of the grave and began covering it with soil. As she shoveled, she continued speaking. "Oh, my husband, who did not die an honorable death in battle. Your father and mine were nobles of the tribe of Judah, but our enemies have dishonored us. No, not our enemies. We have dishonored ourselves. Rokib, my son, bury your father." Rokib joined her in throwing soil over the grave. "Rokib, my son, I will tell you the truth," Ashia spoke as she worked. "Today, you asked if there is another God who can help us. Yes, my son, there is. A prophet named Moses taught us about him. We once followed Moses and worshipped the one true God. Our ancestors followed him. Moses conveyed God's words to us. Moses also brought a book from God. Our ancestors often rebelled, but God and Moses forgave them. In Moses' time, our forefathers were nobles. Moses called our people to battle. Sometimes they refused, sometimes they obeyed. When they obeyed, they conquered this city, and we lived here. But after Moses and his brother Aaron passed away, our ancestors strayed from this path. They abandoned the commands in God's book, so God punished us. He sent the cruel king Jolut of the Balsiso tribe against us. Jolut defeated us easily. We were once nobles, but my father was killed. Your father and I were spared only because we abandoned Moses' way and worshipped the sun. But Jolut has not forgotten our past. He knows that if we return to Moses' path, we will regain power. That is why he continues to oppress us. Rokib, my son, they humiliated and killed your father. We were slaves under Jolut's commander, Sakif Gauba, for 10 years. But no more. We will escape. They finished covering the grave. Rokib was stunned by his mother's words. He could barely recognize the woman who now whispered relentlessly, "Rokib, be strong. Beyond Midian, a man named Yusha is calling people back to Moses' way. We will go to him." "When, mother?" "Now." Ashia grabbed a small bundle from the hut, took her son by the hand, and ran toward the desert. By dawn, they had entered the wasteland. The city was behind them, and ahead lay the barren steppe. Ashia walked westward, but her strength was fading. Her legs wobbled, and she leaned on Rokib for support. The sound of galloping hooves echoed behind them. Their escape had been discovered. Within moments, horsemen caught up to them. The lead rider circled around, lashing his whip mercilessly. The whip struck Ashia's face, leaving a red mark. Her nose bled, and she lost consciousness. Rokib threw himself in front of the next strike to protect his mother. The blow knocked the boy senseless. The horsemen seized them both, slinging them over their saddles, and rode back to the city.